m'entendez? Non. Sanje chodan soje chonam la chanjo bardo dane chapsu chi dage jinso jibe sanam chi rola benjra sanje drobar sho sanje chodan soje chonam la chanchu bardo dane jamsu chi lage jinsu jibe sanam chi rola benjra sanje droba shu sanje chodan soje chonam la chanchu bardo dane jamsu chi Nage jinsu jibe sanam chi rolai benjra sanje droba shu semje tamje dewa dan deve jodan demba churchi dungarai dan dungarai chi jodan drawa churchi Dungar mebe dewa tamba tam mendra church. Nyeren chadan dan terbe dan yom chembo la neba church. Jomden de jambe yang lai chan tsai lo e kange lo drim ye dendra nyetra namda rab sarve. Chinye dungun chi jen si ji ni je togra le bam tse kanda si be tsarar mari munduma dongara che sarve. Rozo kun la puje dar ze yan la chu ju yang den son ro dar che ro nyomo nye lo le che cha ro ro ze chen. Mari mus dongara nyugo chini chun ze ra je nam dene ta chen sa chu tar su yan dene le zo gyar se tu yu ko. Chu ra chu dan chu ni jen re da lu mus ren jambe yang la du. Zeden chuje chen rab zire chi demu mba rab sarane. Dan ten chu shong lu to pa ye lo zhu po be an hang wa tsar to sor.
Good afternoon. During the last session, we started to look at the different vehicles, as you remember, and we started by looking at what distinguishes the different vehicles, and in particular, we looked at the fact that the difference is mainly an issue of motivation, and in particular, to a certain courage in the context of the great vehicles. So maybe here we can deepen, go a little deeper. Briefly, to go into this topic of the great vehicle. So how to summarize? Every time I always try to summarize and return to essential points. But everything that we've seen, you shouldn't think that what I presented is an exhaustive presentation. It's quite superficial. And here, as we're studying a text of the Great Vehicle, I am going to try to present this approach in a little more detail. So we underscored the characteristic of the motivation, which is our orientation in the Great Vehicle, that this orientation is filled with great courage, and that it leans on loving kindness and compassion towards all beings without exception. So, generally speaking, we can make the connection with some of the points that we evoked earlier, in particular regarding afflictions, if you remember. And we spoke about a state of mind, a disposition of mind, of approaching situations. We saw that we can separate or distinguish certain forms of ways of thinking and afflictions or states of minds that are by nature negative, and others that are virtuous and that are beneficial. And among these states of mind that are characterized by qualities, there are a certain number, but I would mainly like to look at this topic in terms of the application of the practice, because if I may, just the reasoning of the concept alone will not solve our problems. We must put it into application, and that's where the approach in Dharma is quite pragmatic. It's not just about having a conception, ideas about the world, but truly to discern in ourselves on a daily basis the qualities as well as the negative states that are harmful to us, and how to face these situations, how to confront them, how to develop qualities. So there's a whole reflection, there's a teaching that should lead us towards a concrete application. So we haven't really spoken much about practices and methods to dissipate afflictions, but there are also a certain number of qualities. If we cultivate them naturally, they will be opposed to the afflictions and the faults. And among the qualities especially in the Great Vehicle, there's a Sanskrit term, Maitri, which is translated as loving kindness, not just love. And on the other hand, we have the quality Karuna, which is translated as compassion. So you have these two qualities. So we can describe them or classify them as Jaita, a state of mind, Samjung in Tibetan. it's good to try to understand what does it precisely mean? What do these qualities precisely mean? In practice, we are invited to really understand these qualities, to cultivate these qualities, and to understand their benefits. And they are really the foundation of all the practice of Dharma and the foundation of the great courage that characterizes the great vehicles. So it's very important to spend a little time on these 2 points. So Maitri and Karuna on the other. Sometimes they're associated with 2 others. We have the 4 immeasurables, the joy and equanimity. So maybe we can look at these 4 briefly, these 4 qualities, very important. And before each session, we take refuge together, and then at the same time as taking refuge, we generate bodhicitta. This is the practice of the great vehicle. And then to reinforce the bodhicitta aspect, we train ourselves to apply the 4 immeasurables. Sometimes Brahma Vyahara, love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. We recite, may all sentient beings know happiness and the causes of happiness. That is that aspiration. It expresses Maitri, loving kindness. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. That defines compassion. May all sentient beings never be separated from authentic joy, free from suffering. That is joy. And may all sentient beings be established in equanimity that is free from attachment, hostility, or aversion towards those who are close and far. This is equanimity. These qualities are commonly taught in Buddhism, and how we understand them, to what extent we practice them, in what perspective can vary according to the vehicles, but it is important to discern in one's life these qualities on the one hand, and not to mix them up with something else that we think is being loving kindness and might not really be the case. So you have to be able to discern and recognize in ourselves these qualities, just as it was important, as we saw earlier, to discern in ourselves how afflictions are by nature negative. So here there are certain qualities that are by nature beneficial. And so we should discern them. So let's start by defining them, and then we can speak about their application. So in the definition, to make it easy, the term love, compassion, joy, equanimity are associated with a certain intention. And the intention of love is kind, caring, that wishes to bring well-being to those who don't have this well-being, to be able to bring it to them. The example, for example, a parent towards their child, Sometimes this is used as an example, parental love. The term Maitri is closer to an attitude of friendship, bringing some goodness, without any calculation, without any hope for oneself, to truly have the intention or wish that the other know well-being and happiness, felicity. No matter what they desire, may they have them. So it's that kind of intention. So, for example, if you have a parent or a friend who you really love and you wish to make them happy, to help them, to see them happy, it is that attitude of friendship, of loving kindness. So somewhere we are all capable of expressing this, sometimes partially. So there is a false friend that we should be a tricky friend that we should be careful of. It is desire attachment. Sometimes we have the impression of appreciating someone, having a kind attitude towards this person, but sometimes it's very selfish. It is by attachment to this person. It is by filled with expectation of recognition, of receiving something back. So we see, we can discern clearly, on the one hand, we have an attitude that isn't concerned by the I, and then another attitude, a desire attachment that is concerned with oneself. The I comes first. I like because it pleases me. So that's a fake friend. It is filled with a desire and attachment. So this attitude of loving kindness is free from this selfish attitude. Again, in the West, we represent love. It can be easily misled. It is often more associated with desire attachment than this attitude of loving kindness. So we have to be careful here of the meaning that we give to this word. And also we tend to associate it more with something that is of in the domain of a feeling of something sentimental. But an intention that is one of loving kindness does not imply this kind of sentimental attitude, this kind of agitation. It is an attitude that is naturally peaceful, that is not concerned with the I, and that carries, it aims to carry the mind to a certain peaceful state, to its peaceful aspect. These are the few key distinctions to make here. Also, we see that this attitude has its opposite that prevents it. If this attitude of loving kindness, Maitri, is present, then the attitude of hostility cannot be manifest at the same time. How can How can we be kind and hostile at the same time? How do we define a hostile attitude? It is wanting to harm, wanting to see the other suffer, wanting to bring difficulties to the other. That is me first, difficulties for other. If there's something good, it's for me, and if there's something that's not good, it's for the others. That tends to be our common attitude. That's selfishness. So this hostile attitude carries one towards agitation, towards violence. It doesn't carry one towards something peaceful. It carries agitation. So here we see how loving kindness can be an antidote or remedy to aversion. Then there's compassion, karuna. This is a little more difficult to understand. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Here the intention is that beings be free from suffering. So here the object of compassion is obviously suffering, somebody affected by suffering. And in the case of loving kindness, it's someone who doesn't have well-being, and we wish to bring this person well-being. In the case of compassion, it's really someone who is suffering, and we want this person to be free from suffering, relief from the suffering. That's compassion. Karuna, the definition, etymologically, I believe, is something that takes away my serenity. I can't remain indifferent in seeing suffering. It affects me. And this is maybe why translators chose compassion, which means suffer with. It is the aspect of being affected by others' suffering, not to be indifferent. We don't want to suffer. It's not that we want suffering. It's something that's unbearable for me. We want to remove it, push it aside. So the fake friend, if I may say here, it would be to be sort of downtrodden by suffering to the point that we can't act. Sometimes the suffering of others sometimes we can just be the suffering renders us incapable of acting because we're afraid for ourselves. Also, there's also a criteria. It's a compassion that is attached to oneself and that fears for oneself and that is not able to be there present to act. So in the term karuna, some associate with the term, with the Sanskrit root that we see in the word karma, which is to act. It is something that carries us to act, that leads us to act, in the sense of acting in a disinterested way, but in supportive, something that relieves. That relieves the sufferings of others in a disinterested way. The difficulty is to to see how this attitude is also marked by qualities of serenity and can carry one towards serenity. And above all, carries towards great courage, leads to great courage. And we can always also distinguish this by speaking about great compassion that we see in bodhicitta, which is the foundation of the great vehicle. So one aspect here is this aspect of being ready to act. So the opposite of compassion is desire attachment. What desire attachment for oneself, everything for oneself. Why don't we help the other? Because it's too difficult for me to do something for the other. If I give, I won't have enough for me. It's that sentiment. It can lead to greed, to attachment, all these kind of feelings. So that it prevents us from being compassionate. Someone falls, for example, and we don't want to help them because it's difficult for me. It's the capacity to act in a disinterested way, and so it doesn't imply sentimentality or being troubled by the view of the other suffering, because this can prevent us from having the courage to go forward and to help. So here, compassion is this capacity to really give, to be generous, to be disinterested for oneself. And it is also being able to find joy in being able to give. And so there's an immense serenity in knowing that we can help, rather like a doctor when he or she is confronted with the difficulties of carrying. But if a doctor knows that he or she can heal their patient, this doctor will be ready to undertake any action to help this patient heal, get better. So here it is the capacity to give. It's real generosity. There's that we don't even feel that there's the joy of being able to give. The only fear is that I won't be able to give. So there's no fear of losing anything, of being separate of something. So there's that aspect. So it's kind of acceptance, no matter what the difficulty is. So great compassion is linked to this attitude of that encompasses towards all sentient beings, not just a temporary benefit, but ultimate benefit. An attitude that is ready to confront all possible difficulties. It is marked by a great courage and also discernment with regards to reality. And so these qualities are then reinforced when they are associated with wisdom. And wisdom, too, contains or expresses these qualities. In the context of the path of the bodhisattvas, we talk about the 6 paramitas. The practice of generosity, the practice of ethical discipline, the practice of patience, the practice of diligence or perseverance, the practice of meditation, and the practice of wisdom, discernment. So these 6 practices, very important, summarize all the practices of the bodhisattvas. And wisdom, discernment, we can say, also the original qualities of our mind naturally express all these qualities, the four immeasurables, as well as the six paramitas. In discernment, there's no more grasping, no more clinging when wisdom is present, manifest. Then generosity is also manifest, because in wisdom there's no grasping of I and other. There is only goodness, giving, that is manifest. In wisdom, there is no affliction. The perfection of the ethical discipline. In wisdom, there is no agitation due to discontent, etc. That's patience. In wisdom, when it's established, there is we don't turn away. It is marked by courage, application. So it's diligence. And this discriminating wisdom, when it's not present, does not know, when it is present, does not know distraction. And so that's why meditation or contemplation is also wisdom. So all qualities are manifest in wisdom. They are the natural qualities of mind, manifest loving kindness, compassion, etc. These are natural qualities, original qualities of the mind that today, despite our confusion and our we can see them express themselves. If ego really truly existed, how is it possible that sometimes we have non-selfish thoughts? If our nature, our substantive nature was were the ego, there would be no place for a single thought that was for oneself, because we would be defined by just thinking about the self. So despite our attachment and our habits of cultivating this idea of the I, this illusion present for such a long time, despite this, spontaneously, we don't even know why, attitudes of loving kindness arise in us. For example, sometimes when we present the Buddha and his previous lives, there are the certain number of stories known as the Jataka that were told by the Buddha when he was, the stories of his former lives when he was a bodhisattva, and that led him to become a Buddha. And one of these stories tells how he discovered the qualities of compassion. And this somehow set off his path towards enlightenment and to become our historical Buddha. And according to this Buddha that he told us, that he brought to us, he was in the Naraka, he was in the hell realms, and he was suffering. He was being beaten with a companion to pull a wheelbarrow, and seeing this companion, this partner suffering, he felt sincere compassion towards him, and he told his he said let me just pull this wheelbarrow on my own, and then so it's just by this single thought that was disinterested, he was born again in a divine word, and he recognized that he was able to come out of the hell realms by telling his executioner to leave his companion alone. It was that spontaneous compassion that he felt at that moment. And the executioner hit him, and he died, the Buddha died, and was reborn in another realm. So that was the, So never will this attitude of compassion mislead us, because they are not based on a fictitious view. They are really they correspond to the original nature of our mind. So a few words for compassion. That was about compassion. So joy, it is towards the well-being of the other. The object of love are those who don't have well-being. Those of compassion, the objects of those are those who are suffering. The object of joy are those who know well-being, that have well-being. So often when we see someone is happier than us, we are jealous. So because if something is good, it's for me. If there's something unpleasant, it's for the other. So if something, I'm envious of what the other has, and somehow he prevents me from having it. So the joy is the opposite of that. It is feeling of contentment. Like a child that we've always wanted to see happy, and we see him or her happy, and we are happy. It's not a kind of excitement. It's just contentment. It is a state of mind marked by serenity, and then equanimity. The object of equanimity is people who are not in equanimity. What's the opposite of equanimity? It is partiality. It is agitation and partiality, confusion and partiality. So partiality, as soon as you cling to the ego, we are in partiality. When we cling to our ego, we prefer ourselves. We cherish ourselves. It's like a basic discrimination in the world. In our world, we speak a lot about discrimination. All sorts of discriminations happen, and we talk about men and women, rich and poor, animal and human. And according to our discriminations, we don't treat people the same way. When it's my family, I'm good towards them. When it's people are in my same social class, I'm partial towards them. If they're others, I am not as kind. I feel less responsibility to be good towards them. If someone smiles at me, I'm happy. If someone looks at me strangely, I'm kind of affected. So that's all partiality. That's what we call partiality, being partial. So we always take sides in a way. That's discrimination. And fundamental discrimination is the discrimination between self and other. It's self-cherishing and indifference or hostility towards the other. That's discrimination. So it's all people who discriminate is the object of equanimity, and it's to wish that all these beings are free from this discrimination, that they may access equanimity, accede to equanimity. In the sentence, There's a term nyering. It is the ties, the connections, the links that we maintain. We think of a person, oh, it's my neighbors, my family. I must be kind to them. I'm close to them. Those other ones they're close, they're foreigners, they're far from me. I don't need to worry about them. It's that kind of discrimination. The term in Tibetan is nyering. It's been translated as those are close and far. Nyi is close, ring is far. It's not physical distance. It's towards those who are close to my heart and those who aren't. So that's discrimination. May all beings be free from this discrimination and know equanimity and be established in equanimity. Equanimity here is marked by a state of mind which is extremely peaceful and free from all preference, discrimination, preference. And in this sense, it's the opposite on the one hand of pride and also of kind of stupidity. It's to say we're a bit naive to think, to believe in all our afflictions, to believe in all our discriminations, and to follow them. Fundamentally, it is the opposite of ignorance. The true equanimity is the natural state of mind free from ignorance. So those are the four immeasurables, the four sublime dwellings. They are called sublime dwellings because these states of mind are naturally peaceful and carry one towards serenity and enable us to access contemplation, meditation. They are the four measurables because their benefit is infinite. And also because these qualities must be cultivated towards all beings without exception, who are in immeasurable, infinite number. And so concretely speaking, if we put them into practice, the best, the most direct way of putting them into practice and the most effective way is not to start by loving kindness. It is to start by equanimity. That is to go beyond all our discriminations towards sentient beings and to wish to all sentient beings to access equanimity and ourselves to be established in a state of equanimity towards all beings. We shouldn't get it mixed up with indifference. It's not indifference in the sense that we don't care about others. It's an equanimity that is allows loving kindness and compassion to express itself towards all sentient beings without exception. So concretely, in our practice, there are instructions that are precise, quite precise, more precise than what I'm giving in terms of cultivating equanimity. We can cultivate equanimity by thought, by reflection, by analysis, conceptually. That is to see that the discriminations that we make are completely arbitrary, fictitious. They have no place. So one of the reasons we discriminate between close and far, the close of kin, that is our friends and our enemies. Our friends bring us good and our enemies harm us. that's basically the reason. Why is a friend? Because he or she is good for me. An enemy is an enemy because they hurt me. They are not good for me. So if we look at it closely, many of our difficulties and are due to our friends. I mean, and a lot of things that make us happy are due to our enemies, because the enemies have challenged us to unlock qualities whereas our friends might give us difficulties because, when they're not there when we need them, they're also a source of difficulty. Actually, the frontier doesn't really hold up. When we think about it, we've all had an infinite number of lives. Those who are my enemies today in our past lives have been our parents and enemies. They have been our parents and friends, sorry. They have helped us. And those who are our parents and our close of kin today have been our enemies in past lives and have harmed us. So we shouldn't have resentment towards one and recognition towards the other. So none of these discriminations really hold up. So by thinking, through analysis, we will change our way of thinking about other sentient beings and see that there is really no difference between myself and everyone else. All other sentient beings without exception, just as me, are looking for the same thing. We all want happiness, well-being, a pleasure, and all of us are fleeing suffering, pain. We don't want difficulty. And in that sense, there's no difference between all sentient beings. So the attitude here of equanimity is to work for the well-being of everyone. Equanimity is to wish that all beings have equanimity, to see that fundamentally their discrimination manifests how they are led astray. They manifest their ego, their illusion, and this is at the root of all their afflictions, of all their problems. And if they are attached to all their discriminations, may they be free from this. And in ourselves, being free from this, may we inspire this in other sentient beings. That is the meaning here of the practice of equanimity. And so if we've succeeded in practicing equanimity, we can move on to the practice of loving kindness. As there's no difference, and we see all beings as equal, on this basis, towards all beings, I can feel loving kindness. Up till now, I have only been concerned about my own well-being or of those who are close to me. Today, I don't make any difference between myself and the other, between those who are close and far. We are all equal. We are all looking for well-being. By whatever means, I will try to bring the well-being of everyone and avoid the suffering of everyone. And in my actions, have this concern on a daily basis, in our behavior and our way of thinking. So to always try to bring happiness to everyone, well-being to everyone. So compassion is when we are facing suffering, to try to relieve the pain of all beings in joy. When there's well-being, whether it's for myself or others, it's the same thing, to feel contentment. So that was a very brief presentation of the practice of the four immeasurables. That is common, if I may say, in the teaching of Buddhism, in the way that I've explained them. But the 4 sublime dwellings, for them to have this immeasurable quality, these 4 qualities have to be associated with discernment and wisdom. So here, to understand the absence of self and phenomena. In this sense, it's a practice of the great vehicle associated with bodhicitta. Now that you've understood these 4 immeasurables, it will become easier to understand what we mean by bodhicitta. The term here, bodhi, means enlightenment, and citta means the courage to have the courageous intention, of the courageous intention. So bodhicitta is preceded by loving kindness and compassion towards all beings, all sentient beings. And it is the intention, the wish, to bring all beings towards enlightenment and to pursue the practice of enlightenment in order to have the means to help all sentient beings. So it implies an immense confidence in the 3 jewels, in the Buddha Dharma Sangha, in the teaching of the Buddha, a great confidence in what we have been able to understand in the qualities of mind or our potential, a great confidence in this, an immense promise of activity towards other sentient beings. That is, the number of beings is infinite. Accomplish the benefit of all beings is a project that seems like inconceivable. But to want to bring relief to all sentient beings from all sufferings and to establish all sentient beings in happiness, and in particular the ultimate happiness of enlightenment, the temporary well-being, but above all the ultimate well-being, is what we are wishing for all sentient beings. So it's an immense project marked by this immense courage. And that is bodhicitta. It is the moment where we have truly made this wish from the intention and the promise to apply oneself to fulfill this wish, that we enter into what we call the great vehicle. We can speak about starting to practice the path of the bodhisattvas. And so in the text that we are studying, it belongs to this environment of practice. That is to... So we have some time for questions now. It's difficult for me to be in equanimity when we see everything happening around us. when we see people who are taking care of children who are, sexually touching them, or when we see young girls who are being assassinated, for me it's just unbearable. I can't have equanimity. It's an excellent question, says Rinpoche. It's children who are being sexually abused, she said. So here I would like to try and bring you to a point that I think is important. We shouldn't get equanimity mixed up with indifference. On the one hand, when we cultivate equanimity and discrimination, we accept that certain people torture others, and that all crimes are can be on the same par with people who do good in the world. Obviously, there are activities that we can admire and wish to emulate. For example, the conduct of bodhisattvas, of people who are extremely charitable, and that can bring joy. And then seeing people who are who have a negative conduct, we can experience grief and compassion. So if we look at the Buddhist teaching, or draw on the Buddhist teaching, we look at perspective we take a larger perspective than what is presented in a crime, for example. In a crime, generally what happens, we're partial. We defend the victim, and we feel aversion and hatred towards the criminal. In the practice of equanimity, on the base of equanimity, what changes? Instead of feeling hatred, we should feel compassion for the victim, just as for the criminal. Because the criminal, through this act, why is he in this act? It's because of his afflictions or her afflictions, an illness that I have too. And there too. So compassion is to hope, wish that this person will... this person will have to deal with the consequences of this. I hate him too, but of course, when I start hating, when you look at the news and all the horrors there are, we are troubled. We feel a lot of discontent. But we should remember that this discontent doesn't change anything to the situation. The only person that we're harming is oneself. It's what I said earlier. When we feel hostility or hatred, the only person that we are harming is ourselves. And another point, connected to in relation to the four immeasurables, we are asked to cultivate loving kindness towards all sentient beings without exception. And you can say, okay, that's all right, maybe 99%, but come on. He's a horrible criminal, all the things he's done. I just cannot feel loving kindness towards him. So let's examine the situation in terms of oneself. When we spoke about loving kindness being present, what does it prevent? Hatred. Why don't we want hatred in us? Hostility. It's because this attitude is by nature harmful to us. And if we can feel loving kindness towards 99.9%, except one, well, then we won't be free of hatred. We still give ourselves the right to hate one person. Even if we hate just one person, we're a victim of hatred. So to love all beings without exception, it is first of all for oneself. It is a gift to oneself. We're the first beneficiaries. That means that we are free from this attitude of hatred that is our enemy. So long as we have hatred, it's through hatred we have never solved anything. And even less neither for oneself nor for anyone else. It is the karmic link that can be created between different people that we can be led to meet from life to life if we haven't solved a problem between two people. Is there a chance that we'll meet again in next life, and these circumstances will come up again, or on the contrary, if we have favorable circumstances, will they come back? Rinpoche answers, well, we'd have to be omniscient to know this. Of course, we have links with connections with every sentient beings, without exception, and positive and negative relations with each one of them. So to associate this with one practice, whatever the relation I have with the sentient beings, whether it be positive or negative, good or bad, through this link, through this tie, through this connection, may I have a beneficial effect for sentient beings. Just make this wish simply. May I share a testimony on mirages, and then they have a question? Sure. I've traveled a lot in the desert, in the Sahara, and I remember one trek, and we were in Libya. It's very flat, and at the end of the day, we were a small group. We were sharing our mirages. For some, it was water. For some, it were trees. For others, it was a color. For another, it was the dunes. So I think according to the conceptions in our mind and to what we were expecting, we all had different mirages. So that was just my little story. And so in the notion of compassion, I do not know how to be compassionate towards people who are assisting or it is a question of knowing how to assist those who cannot assist themselves. That's why I was saying that the activity of compassion is difficult. People have the pretense to do well. I mean, look at the wars today that are taking place. Each side justifies what they are doing for. It's for the good that we are making weapons. It's for we are killing for. The the path towards hell is paved with good intentions, as the expression goes. But these intentions are selfish. All of them are selfish. So an act that is really compassionate is not selfish. And compassion has to be accompanied by discernment. It's not just sentimentality, because I feel good when I do this, I feel better. That's ego. The ego is very tricky. It takes everything. It tries to cling to everything. And we identify to our compassion. And so the attitude of compassion has no expectation. And all compassionate activity has to be associated with knowledge and discernment. So in the name of compassion, or so-called compassion, we make a lot of, we create a lot of suffering, of dependencies. So we shouldn't confuse compassion with an activity that is linked to ego. So it is more in terms of the possibility of being generous. And so concretely, on a daily basis, we try to have this attitude towards all sentient beings. And sometimes I've seen people letting their family, just leaving their family to try and be compassionate at the other end of the world. It has to be marked by equanimity. And the first that we should help are those who depend on us and with whom we come into contact. Personally, I'm in contact with both those who need and those who help with an ego behind them. I help and I assist. Well, to answer simply, compassion is not about assisting people. It is to help people come out of their difficulties, of their problems. It is not to do things in their place. That won't help them. For example, one has to help others in an intelligent manner. I agree. But what posture should we have towards those who assist without hurting them? Well, you have to look at the problem concretely. Here we're talking about compassion, the practice, the attitude in general, and then there's the application in a specific beneficial activity. So there are some people who who claim that they are accomplishing beneficial activity. Is it beneficial on the one hand? That's why I said that we have to use discernment to look at the situation in a concrete way. And if we have to undertake an activity or charitable activity, a beneficial activity for others, we have to analyze carefully all different aspects before undertaking such an action. Not just because, it will be good, it will be beneficial. We have to look at it more closely. And the practice of compassion is not to say, I have to do everything for others. I have to look for food for everyone else. I have to I have to bring them to enlightenment while they're kind of just doing nothing or sleeping. It is to solve problems that we are a victim of because we're not able to help others. We are harmful to others and harmful to ourselves now. And how is this? It is because of afflictions that we are harmful to ourselves and to others. And how can we be free from afflictions? Well, it is by cultivating these qualities. And if we are free from afflictions, then we will start to better discern and see how we can help in a better way, if there is the possibility to help. Sometimes we can't even do anything. And that's where equanimity comes in. When we can't do anything, well, we can't blame ourselves for not being able to do anything if the circumstances aren't brought together. Regarding the natural qualities of mind, how do we know that these qualities are naturally part of the nature of mind? That is, and how can afflictions produce themselves on the basis of a clear mind? How do they emerge? It's due to ignorance, non-recognition of qualities of mind, and the grasping of the I, of the clinging of the I. As there's the grasping of self, of I, there are all these afflictions arise for the I. Pursuit, afflictions, jealousy, pride arise because of this discrimination, this grasping, this clinging of self, of I. It's adventitious. It's not a established reality. It just comes from a mistaken view, because we see when we analyze it, it's not the fact that Buddhists believe that there are no ignorance. It is how do we grasp self? Does it? We saw this the other day. We examined it. We see that there's nothing to hang on. Imagine that you live in a huge house and there's a great cupboard, and there's a monster in this cupboard, and you never dared go into this room. You live in fear. All this fear is based on the assumption, the presupposition that's not established. The monster has never been in the cupboard, has never existed. So if you open the cupboard, you'll discover that there's never been a monster. But you're so afraid that you don't dare open the cupboard. So it's adventitious. It's purely imaginary, purely fictitious. So there's a monster and all the fear that goes along with it, but the reality is not the case. If the monster really existed, we would never be able to get rid of it because it would be part of reality. But the monster does not exist, really exists. It's just something fictitious, like the image that I gave. In shamatha meditation, looking for the nature of mind, it's like we're if we focus only on the shamatha enable us to go faster and vipassana. How do we go from one to the other? I try shamatha, but at the same time, I try to see the nature of mind. So am I not reinforcing some conceptions when I do this? Rinpoche says, if we look at our inner life, it's made up of a succession of thoughts and perceptions, of feelings, of reactions towards our feelings. And so we maintain all kinds of thoughts that are linked generally to afflictions, because they are generally linked to a concern for the I. So when we talk about the natural reality of mind and on absence of self, we treat them as thoughts and concepts. We can't really feel or bring the mind to feel its reality beyond any representations. So a first approach is our agitated mind. Can we help our agitated mind to become calmer? So the shamatha, it means it means a kind of stillness, a certain realization, the capacity for serenity, of being able to stay in a natural serenity without effort, and this constantly. And for us, staying without distractions for 1 or 2 seconds, without thoughts taking us left and right and center, that's really difficult. So through the different instructions that are given to us, the different methods of shamatha, we can slowly calm the mind, and then through the instructions of the teacher, it becomes easier for the mind to recognize its reality. That's just a way of proceeding. And then the aspect that recognizes reality is vipassana, that's discernment. And then another approach is on the basis of discernment, even though our mind is agitated, we catch a glimpse of what the teachings are showing us, and with regards to the natural state of our mind. When we have this glimpse, then we try to familiarize ourselves with it. So the aspect of recognition and discernment, the aspect of shamatha, is non-distraction. In both cases, shamatha and vipassana, it will lead to the union of the two. The mind is at the same time serene, still, and can discern. And on this basis, the progression towards enlightenment, the actualization of qualities takes place. It's not about having a few ideas or concepts and to let it keep it at this. It's an activity, it's a practice that one has to do in an assiduous way, ideally like Milarepa. Nothing else was important. And in his own life, he became a Buddha. So the more assiduous we are in our practice, the more we will harvest the fruits. But first, we have to know how to practice. That's why, for a beginner, the more important than practicing is to know how to practice. That's why we underscore the importance of studying Dharma. It's not to ask you to become scholars or intellectuals. It's just to know how to correctly practice, not make mistakes in the practice so that we don't lose time and so that our practice is effective. We recite texts, we recite mantras, we do this and that, but often we're distracted, often with incomplete understanding. As I said, all practices must address afflictions and ignorance. Regarding people who are suffering, in the West here, we're not very good at or trained in helping people who have gone through trauma, addictions. We're not really well trained to help people in this state. Would you know centers in France or in India who that know how to treat people who really have these extreme suffering of trauma, violence? Rinpoche answers, I wouldn't really know how to advise you on this. I don't think we should think it's a problem just in the West. It's a global problem everywhere, whether it's in Asia or in the West. There are problems. There are people who suffer from addictions and from all sorts of problems. It is a global problem. And for the drugs are more and more powerful, strong, and they have a very, very harmful effect. It's a major problem in the world, especially in the States, in the United States. I've seen that it's a terrible problem. It's about equanimity. What was developed. It is equanimity in terms of what arises within ourselves, and this I think about the status of suffering, how we let go. I'm trying to, when an emotion arises that's difficult, it doesn't have a reality, and how do I let go of it, and to stay in a certain stability. Maybe you could develop this another, because we talked about equanimity, but more towards others. We really went through this very quickly, but one aspect of equanimity is also the absence of partiality between self and other. Sometimes there's this image that's given. Imagine. I'm going to give it a more contemporary flavor. So let's imagine we're on a plane, the terrorists hijack the plane, and you're traveling with a spiritual master, someone who is, and with your child, and also in the plane is the person that you hate the most. And then the terrorists say, okay, we're going to select one person to give the example, and we're going to assassinate this person. So how are you going to react? One of the reactions will be to think, oh my God, I hope he doesn't choose me. That would be the most selfish reaction. That there's no equanimity there. The other would be to say, well, I would like him to choose my enemy. He deserves it. There's no equanimity there. And then then you could say, oh, I'm a great saint. I would like him to choose me. And there's no equanimity there either. It's kind of the sacrifice of self for the others. So that's what I was trying to underline with equanimity. Equanimity is to have no preference. I mean, the idea is that we don't want anyone to be chosen. That's kindness. That's loving kindness. This is about, this refers to impartiality. It has to do with the notion of impartiality. How is the mind when it is in this impartiality? It's rather what you described. The mind is naturally peaceful. It doesn't have any expectations of hope, of fear. The mind has confidence in itself. And so the original reality of mind, the true veritable nature of mind, is free, peaceful. We can stay there regardless of the circumstances. They're all appearances, ephemeral, fiction. So even if the world were to collapse and destroy us, there's an indestructible quality in terms of the veritable nature of mind. So in Vajrayana Buddhism, there's the Dorje, the Vajra, the object. It symbolizes the reality that is the indestructible reality of our mind, the veritable nature of our mind, the natural freedom of our mind, the enlightened nature of our mind, the Buddha, the Buddha nature that is in our mind, that is indestructible, immortal. So if we manage to establish ourselves there, that's where we find our own benefit, our ultimate benefit. It's Dharmakaya, the body of reality. It is those qualities it's not something to protect the eye. It is something that's beyond the eye, beyond all fiction, and it doesn't exclude any activity or possibility of helping the others. And it's not a reduction of the capacity of the mind. On the contrary, it enables omniscience, clairvoyance, and many, many qualities. So we have to, in our own experience, not just to think about it conceptually, to have a conceptual idea of what Buddha nature is, but to really feel it and to have confidence. And the more we feel it, more the confidence will increase. And then the more we will be able to establish ourselves in it and to familiarize ourselves with it. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. I hope that these was helpful, and we see each other tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And I wish you a pleasant evening.
Sibe, so le,